Hi guys, this is Carrie Fullerton, Professional Organizing. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that I don't talk about very often, but the author is Suzanne Stavert. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's Stavert, from Adventures of Empty Nesters. And normally I wouldn't tackle this subject, but I am now an empty nester, so I found it very interesting. And so she talks about thriving as an empty nester, and she sort of has gone through some of what I feel like I've gone through, just really missing my kids and just really being sad because you miss them. They were there all the time, and now it's either they live far away and you don't see them hardly ever, or they work full time and now you don't see them very often, and when they are off they'd rather be with their friends, or in my son's case probably sleeping. But I did hear that he went bowling with his work crew this past week, so I know he does do some fun things with the people he works with as well. But Suzanne Stavert is creator of the blog and website Adventures of Empty Nesters, and she talks about the types of, she starts off talking about the types of empty nesters, and she says, I'm going to be talking with several different types of empty nesters. One, the traditional empty nester, and those of you who are traditional empty nesters, that means that both your kids are gone, or all of your kids are gone, rather, and you're trying to decide what's next. She says, how about the almost empty nester, where you have the very last kid at home, and the revolving door empty nester, where all of your kids were gone, but one at a time they come in and out. You know, they move in, they move out, they move in. They're trying to be independent, but hadn't quite gotten there yet. And then lastly, it would be the children of the empty nesters. Don't you kind of want to know how your parents are feeling now that the nest is empty and you're no longer there on a daily basis? That was the question she poses. Finding an adventure in life is for everyone. So, are you ready to thrive in the empty nest? Let's go. So here we go. I'm excited to get started, and I know I just gave you a little explanation about empty nesters and almost empty nesters and children of empty nesters. It's just that really finding adventure in your life is really, though, for everyone. Even though she talks about all the different empty nesters, what she wants you to know is adventures for everyone. Do you need to helicopter parent from a distance? I don't think so. I think you did a great job with your kids, and they're out growing up and learning and being the professional people that they want to be, and we need to back off a little, don't we? And she was so sad that her husband told her, your kids aren't dead, they're just not living with us anymore. And that's when she realized she needed to do something. And she wanted to help other parents that were feeling the same way. So she says, cultivate what makes you enjoy life. So now we need to cultivate that in ourselves. She says, of our let's see, what does she say? From the day they're born, our focus is directly on them, and we lovingly place all of our energy onto them. And as an empty nester, it's time to turn that light back on ourselves and find out just what lights us up on the inside. You know, as parents, we do. As soon as our kids are born, they're the light of our life, and we pour into them. We buy them things before we spend money on ourselves. We go on vacations that are kid friendly. We do everything centered around our kids. Well, God first, our spouses, and then our kids. But you know what I mean. Our family life and our children are very, very important. And everything parents wanted to do gets put aside until our kids are raised. She says, now that they're out of the house, seize the opportunity. Let's seize the opportunity to live our best life ever. The journey takes a while. It didn't go from sad and directionless empty nester to this new career that I can't even believe I have, she said. This empty nester adventure needs time to succeed. I promise you, if you look at the questions we're going to talk about, we're going to have you give some deep thought. I'm going to give you some direction, and then I'm going to help you make a plan. So she went from very, very, very sad to having a career writing articles, traveling and writing articles, speaking to empty nesters, and going on these traveling adventures and talking to people about these places that she's gone to and the things she's discovered. Now, not all empty nesters are going to go quite that far, but to have this humongous career that they never could dream of, but you can discover your dreams again. You can start doing things that are fun, that are just what you and your spouse or just you wanted to do and had to put aside to raise your kids, which was the greatest joy. And honest to goodness, I think I might have cried at least one time every day, she said. Not a lot of tears, but maybe a little whimper here and there, all the way till February when her last one moved out. I was hit so hard with this idea that our daughter wasn't coming in the door every day, till finally my husband said, "Sue-Ann, she's not dead. She's at school and she's having a blast." Well, I needed to stop with the moping around. I needed to start thinking about what life was going to be like without my daughter, and then without my son. See, she had just started her empty nest journey. She still had her son at home, but her daughter was the first to go, and she was heartbroken. It doesn't matter if you're 1,000 miles or 60 miles, they still aren't coming home anytime soon, and life as we know it is no longer the same as when they were living in your home and you saw them every day, you did things with them on a regular basis. Are you nodding? I think I can feel you nodding right now. This is hard. On this day, I was trying to hold it together, but I kept thinking, how will I live without my children? How will they live without me? What is next, and where is my focus? Have any of you felt that way? This is what I'm going through right now, and you know, it took me a while to even talk to you out there about this. I read her article. I loved it. It spoke to me, but I put it aside until I was ready to present this information to some of you that may be going through the same thing. Seriously, the empty nester adventure takes time, and you have to work through these emotions because it's hard. But emotions are tough, aren't they? You just can't ignore them. We need to acknowledge them, but we still need to move past negative ones in order to be happy in the empty nest. Now, how do you feel? How do you feel deep down? Because you do need to deal with those emotions. Our emotions can affect how we look at everything. We cannot ignore them while we're creating this new adventure. All right, and there are others that just moped and really were directionless, and I kind of was somewhere kind of in the middle. So we're going to make a plan, and then we're going to execute that plan, and then we're going to plan for the future. I kind of like this idea, right? We have to let go. We have to let our children grow up. We have to let them go. Okay? So let's start with what you're passionate about. For example, I'm passionate about organizing. And so I started this new organizing career. But she was passionate. And when I say she, remember, Suzanne was passionate about travel and roses, reading, and cooking. So you're going to start making lists, and then you're going to contemplate that list, and then we're going to prioritize what exactly is important to you, and then you're going to create this new life. I'm so excited for you. Okay? And then you're going to execute it, and then we're going to celebrate, because we deserve to celebrate this new start in life. Now, the way I'm celebrating is my husband and I are going to take a trip to Colorado, up in the mountains, in the woods, by the little stream of water, in a cabin, and we are going on a real vacation without children. And this is how we're, now we've been empty nesters for at least a year or two, but we're just now taking steps to go on adventures that just involve us. Okay? But so that's how we're going to celebrate. Now, what lights you up inside? What is it? She says, what defines you? So what besides being a mom or a dad, what defines you? What do you love? Oh, the list is long, and it can be long if you sit and think about all the things you love. Okay, what do you like? What makes you happy? Where do you want to go? Or in her case, where does she want to travel? She made a travel. This is where that bucket list comes in, guys. I actually have never made a bucket list. It's time for me and my hubby to make a bucket list. But this is what she's talking about. She didn't really call it a bucket list, but that's what she's talking about. She loves to travel. And so that's what she decided to start making her plans on. She says, dream big. So do you want to learn something new? Do you have unfinished projects? How about taking a trip? Now, this also considers, are you an empty nester that works outside the home, or are you an empty nester that works in the home? I happen to be an empty nester that works full-time out of my home. I do not have a business that I work for. I started my own business when becoming an empty nester. I had a side business, but now this is my full-time business. So she said, what about getting healthy? How about renewing old friendships? What about volunteering your time? How about relaxing more? And that's what I'm doing. I am working full-time out of my home, but because it's in my home, I do get to relax more. What about taking a class? Maybe you're always wanting to take a class, blowing glass or sewing class or knitting class or cooking class even. Why not? Mine is Bible study. I really am getting to study my Bible more through some of the ways that I am studying the Word more is through watching YouTube videos of pastors that I really love and respect and trust, that really I love listening to that. I teach a Bible study once a month now, and I'm getting to really pour into my clients and into my business. But she says when she created Adventures of Empty Nesters, she created it to write about her life in the empty nest and how she was feeling. And then what she discovered is plenty of other people out there feeling the same way that she did. And that's how Adventures of Empty Nesters really was born. Then she started writing about travel more. And so actual blog kind of pivoted towards travel, a little less about empty nest life. But she created a career of her dreams, and then brands found her and thought, this is the micro audience that I have of empty nesters and almost empty nesters and parents of empty nesters and children of empty nesters. They're all interested in kind of the same things in food and family, lifestyle, travel, and that's how her audience grew from there. And she goes into a little bit of her story, but I'm just going to touch on a few things. She said, this career in travel writing has taken me years of hard work, but I have found my purpose in this second half life in the empty nest. And that's how I feel about my organizing. I feel like I've found my purpose. I enjoy serving others in this way of helping them get organized, because a lot of the people I help get organized, their organization has really caused a lot of issues in their relationships and in their work life and in their mental health. So that is where I come in. Now, she says, do you want to be sad that the kids are grown, or would you like to thrive in your life? You can still be missing them, but these feelings don't have to overtake everything. Remember, your children want you to be happy. I promise you they do. Now, finding the adventure. So, she said she found adventure when she started the blog called Adventures of Empty Nesters. Now, we cannot get tripped up into the details of all these questions that I've been asking you. You just move forward, stay the course, and keep adding to your list of things that you want to do, your bucket list, by increasing these idea inventories. Do you love that? What I think would be a great idea as empty nesters is your husband write his bucket list, you write your bucket list, and then you compare the two and try to figure out which ones that your husband loved that you didn't think of, and vice versa. But also start with the things that you both put on your page that were the same. Now, I'm just adding to this. This is not Suzanne's words. These are my ideas as I'm reading about Suzanne's life and trying to talk to you about the empty nest life. I think if he has a bucket list, you have a bucket list, you do the things where y'all are the same on, do those first, then start looking at the things that are you didn't think of that you thought would be a great idea. And he may look at your list and go, oh yeah, I'd love to do that too, and do those. Then there might be some that you might have to compromise on. But I just thought that might be a really fun idea to each make your own bucket list and then merge them together and make one big bucket list and see how that works for both of you. That I think that would be so fun. Your idea and creation is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more defined and stable it will become. Instead of waiting till you've closed the door and you're waving goodbye to your last child that's leaving the nest, I love the idea of starting to put some prep into what you're going to do in the future. So, what do you want to do? Start this now before you're an empty nester. So, here's where you can find her. And I will leave that information, Adventures of Empty Nesters, and I'll leave all of that information at the end of this. But let me go ahead and do a little review of some things and see if I forgot to mention some things, because she has a little overview, and it helps me get the message across with it. And if I missed anything, then it'll be explained in this overview. But she says, Suzanne Stavert, find adventure and thrive in empty nest. Where do we begin? Our kids are grown and they're happily living their lives, and we have spent the better part of 18 years raising them, supporting them, and caring for them. Now what? Let's seize the opportunity to live our best life ever. I'm serious. You deserve it. I deserve it. We all do. Who doesn't want that? Well, let's figure out exactly how we're going to get there together. I kind of consider this life 2.0 because we loved our first life, and now we are just gonna do the second half of life just a little bit different, right? We're gonna do it just a little bit different. There's fewer people in the house, right? This is where we get to turn that light, that focus on ourselves. We still smile as parents, even though our kids are grown and gone. We still laugh. I was hit so hard with this idea that our daughter wasn't coming in the door every day till finally my husband said, Suzanne, she's not dead. She's at school and she's having a blast. Well, I needed to stop with the moping around, and I needed to start thinking about what life was going to be like without my daughter, and then without her son eventually. The empty nester adventure takes time, and you have to work through these emotions because it's hard. It's really hard. You do need to deal with these emotions. Our emotions can affect how we look at everything. We cannot ignore them while we're creating this new adventure. You will never know until you try. I am a firm believer that we learn more from our failures than we do from our triumphs. You will succeed eventually. It might not be the first try, but you don't know until you try and get yourself just on the right path that you too can thrive and find adventure in your life. Make a plan, execute that plan, and then plan for the future. Make a list, make that bucket list about what you are passionate about. Contemplate that list and prioritize what is important to you. And then you're going to create this new life. Dream big. Do you want to learn something new? Do you have unfinished projects? Do you have places you want to go? Find adventure. All right, guys, that was it for the ideas that Suzanne had for being an empty nester and finding adventure. And I really, really did love it and enjoyed it. And I hope you did too. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. And I'll see you on the next podcast.